All right, church. Well, if you've been joining us for the past several weeks now, you know that we have been in these Psalms of Ascent, these songs that were sung by pilgrims journeying back from exile to the city of God, the presence, the center of God's presence in the world. And right now, again, it feels so much like we are an exiled people, banished from what we have always known to be the presence of God. And that distance, that separation is sorely felt sometimes. Church, I want to encourage you that these songs that the psalmists sing, may they become your songs, drawing you ever closer to the peace of God, the rest that is found in God, the presence of God that is not confined to a building or a gathering time, but it is marked by you, O child of God. One who has been set free by Jesus' blood, who has been transformed by his grace, who lives a life in the way of Jesus that is profoundly different than anything this world has ever known. That the presence of God dwells with you now. And so as you and I and the rest of our church family and our world are on this journey to rediscover what joy in him looks like, my prayer is that this song would remind you of who he is, would give you confidence in him, and would just continue to restore the sense of peace and rest that has been sorely missing in your time. What I want you to do right now is pause the video and open up your Bibles to Psalm 127. I want you to dig in, read through this psalm, and just pray on it and prepare your heart for just the encouragement that we're going to find in it this morning. All right. Psalm 127 is this really, really challenging song as a reminder that honestly, that there's so much in our world. We are in this constant search for rest and for honor. And yet, this song makes it really clear that we need to ask ourselves, what is the rest that we're looking for? What is the honor that we are searching for? And where are we hoping to find it? What are we seeking to find when we do that? As I mentioned before, you might consider yourself right now a people of exile, and I think that's a good term, a good definition for us. And exile as this momentary separation from the people of God, it is this. It can cause us a lot of unrest and worry. Think about our world right now. We are torn by all kinds of unrest and worry. It leaves us searching for an enemy to conquer in order to regain our honor, our place in this world. And it's amazing how something around us that has literally caused a worldwide Sabbath, a real, physical, tangible pause in society, in busyness, in work, in all of these human pursuits, that it has in fact ultimately caused us it has pulled back the curtain on a world that is unable to rest. It cannot rest. It is perpetually restless. And it is unable to be satisfied, and it is unable to trust in anything. It's funny that the longer our world rests, the longer it is unable to rest. There is an angst, an antsiness, and an eagerness to just go back and do something. Whatever it takes to feel like we can rest. And here's the thing, as a people, we hate to have rest thrust upon us and forced upon us. The rest that everyone is searching for is the rest that says we completed our work, that we have finally figured out how to do everything that we need to do. And what we find is that when rest is thrust upon us in a season like this, we discover that we feel in our own spirits undone, unfinished, that there are things that we have got to go do and have and pursue and accumulate and gain in order to be at peace. It's surprising how much discontentedness we experience in our world around us today, especially when our world is compelling us to have to be content right now. But what does Psalm 127 say? Unless Yahweh builds a house, its builders labor over it in vain. Unless Yahweh watches over a city, the watchman stays alert in vain. In vain, you get up early and stay up late, working hard to have enough food. And then yet, he gives sleep to the one he loves. What Yahweh is asking instead for his people, for you and for me, is for his people to set aside their personal goals for peace and for honor, and instead to trust in their Creator for those things. He is asking for his people to be characterized by a countercultural attitude that allows for God to be God in our lives. Unless Yahweh builds the house, the builders labor over it in vain. What that shows is that in anything, in all of the human projects and the goals, that we have got to allow Yahweh to be the builder. The psalmist makes it pretty clear that the creator, the craftsman, is the one who is doing the job. And it's maybe helpful for us to think of ourselves not as builders ourselves, but more as the tools that the builder uses. As a hammer, as a screwdriver, as a drill. Think about that. If you were a hammer, can you build something on your own? No. And in fact, were you to try to build something on your own, it would probably cause destruction. You are unwieldy on your own as the tool. But in the hands of the craftsman, partnering with, as an extension of the craftsman's hand, you can build incredible things. On our own, when it is left to ourselves to pursue our own legacies, our own heritage, our own protections and safety around us, very often we end up causing destruction, if not to ourselves, then to others around us. Our world is a testimony to the beauty that the human project can build. Art and architecture and math and science and literature, there are beautiful pictures of that. But once again, humans are also the ones who are liable for all of the greatest destructions and atrocities in the world. We are, at best, unwieldy hammers, bent towards, ultimately, vanity, which another word for that word is destruction. As followers of Jesus, as members of his church, it's important for you to know that we are not independent of him or even truly interdependent on him. But we are dependent on him fully for everything that we can do. Sometimes we fall into this trap that says, I have my own journey, my own ideas, my own agendas, and God is this benevolent being that sort of is sitting up there watching over me, probably nodding his head in approval to everything that I want to do, and he's just waiting for me to ask him for help anytime. And so what we often think of, and be honest with yourself, when you are praying to God, are you praying and asking for God's will to actually be done and for you to be invited in as a part of it, to participate with him in his goals, his agendas, his plans? Or do your prayers mostly look like, God, here's my plan, my agenda, my goals, and I'd like you, and God, I think I can do most of this on my own, but I think it would look even better if you were a part of it. Man, that would just amplify it, make it better, make it more successful. You would really just improve my own life and really just enhance everything around me. Do we pray prayers of enhancement to our own goals? Or do we pray that we might be able to be permitted to partner with God in his goals, which I guarantee you are as enhanced as they get, as good for the world, for his good plans and purposes, for our good as you can possibly get? Do you want to be the builder, or can you trust in God as the builder? Do you have to be the watchman over your city, protecting everything that you have established in your people, in your society, and your community, and your culture as you have established it? Or can you rest as part of God's city, God's community, as he is the watchman? Now, again, that doesn't mean that you need to lazily stand by and just simply say, oh, I don't have to worry about anything. God's got it. I don't have to do any building because God's just going to build it anyways. No, this is an invitation into participation into the ways of God as he already has planned. God is not saying, don't build. He's saying, come along. I need you. I need your help as I build. You are my hammer. Let's go. God is saying, stand by the watchtower with me. I can see, if you fall asleep, it's okay. I've got it. But why don't you come along? Let's watch together. You can be at peace knowing that I'm here and I'm always watching. The psalmist continues later on, and he talks about the beauty of having sons. He says they are a heritage from Yahweh, and offspring is a reward. They are like arrows in the hands of a warrior. Now this second half, if the first half is all about the rest that we can have with God, knowing that we don't have to build our houses for ourselves. We don't have to protect the communities around us so that we can have our rest that we're longing for. In the same way, there is a desperate push for honor. The world needs to know that I deserve my place here, that I have earned respect, that I have earned authority, that I have earned a voice. We don't feel like we can just have a voice. We feel like we have to take it for ourselves. We have to have honor among those who we would even consider our enemies, those enemies who are at the gate. Now, Yahweh, the psalmist reminds us, he says, listen, the honor that you have, it doesn't come from you. The legacy that you have, it's not because of what you have. For him, he says, listen, you've got sons. You've got heritage and legacy that comes before you, but those aren't something that you made. Those are God-given things to you. And in this imagery, this story, it's like saying, as the man approaches the gate and the enemy stands on the other side, threatening his very existence, as he walks up with an army full of sons behind him, ready to stand up on your behalf. It's like saying, I don't have to fight for my own honor. Look at all these sons. Are you really going to stand up to all of them? Think of that for us right now. There is a son that Yahweh himself has given, who goes before you, who fights your battles, who protects you, who stands before you, and your honor is found not in what you can do, but in what the Son has done for you. He has gone ahead. He has won the wars. You have honor and dignity not because of what you have done, but only because of what he has done. Your sense of self-worth is not built up in what you have so vigorously and violently fought for. It is, in fact, what God's own Son has died for and sacrificed for. There is no shame in the gospel. You do not need to be ashamed of that. In fact, you can be honored because of it. You can be honored to be known by him and to be seen by him and to have his Son die for you so that you may live a life just in love with him and in relationship with him, protected by him, at peace with him, at rest with him. Church, I believe that we are at our most effective and most beautiful, not when we wield power or piety, not when we fight for our own protections and our own plans and our own purposes, but when we partner humbly with the living God. We don't have to obsess over our house because we have a God who builds us an everlasting home built not with human hands. We don't have to constantly watch for dangers to our man-made cities because God has established a new society of people built around selfless love and mercy that cannot be overcome, even by death itself. And we don't have to pursue honor for ourselves among the world. This is important, church. We do not have to pursue honor for ourselves among the world because our legacy is God-given and it goes before us. There is absolutely nothing that this world can do to take away your dignity before a living God. There is no shame that you cannot face because the honor that comes from that Creator is greater and more powerful than anything else that this world could dish out. I promise you that. What if, instead of inhabiting a restless and victimized spirit like the rest of the world, that we slept? God gives sleep to the ones that he loves. What if we slept like ones who are loved by the Creator? What if we were characterized by a divine rest and infectious dignity that caught the world by surprise with its otherworldly effects? What a beautiful picture that would be for the presence of God overtaking us faulty human beings like you and me, and instead offering a glimpse of the kingdom that is bound not by the ways of earth, that is not conformed to the patterns of this world, but instead is truly a vision of heaven, of Eden, of beautiful, uninterrupted, unparalleled, unbroken relationship between God and man. Questions for you this morning. Number one, what are the houses that you have been trying to build? Or maybe not the houses you've been trying to build and establish and grow, but but maybe they are cities that you have been trying to protect, the things that maybe you already have, or the people that you know that you have been trying to guard and protect for yourself, that you think might give you the rest that you have been searching for. Are those things God's houses? Did He build them? Are they God's cities? Is He watching over them? Or are they yours? Question number 2. What are the arrows that you have been trying to shoot? And at what enemy that you think will give you the honor that you have been searching for? Man, I think so often we see ourselves as Christians as an us versus the world, when that is never the case. How can, as a church, we be us versus the world when at the same time we are called to be in the world, not of the world, transforming the world, inviting the world, drawing the world ever closer and nearer into the presence of God? When we make humans, the flesh of this world, just like you and me, into enemies against God always, and enemies against ourselves, that when we defeat the human enemies of this world, we will win. We won't win. You know why? Because the fight is not ours. Our job is not to defeat flesh and blood. It is to invite flesh and blood to experience the transforming power of the Spirit that will defeat the forces of evil that are not flesh and blood, but are spirit. What are the arrows that you have been shooting at what enemies that you think will give you the honor that you are searching for? Question number 3. Have you ever experienced unconditional rest or unconditional honor? What did that look like? What did it feel like? What did you experience when you had that? And as a follow-up, did Jesus have anything to do with that? If He did, how did that feel? If not, how unconditional was it, do you think? Truly. And finally, question number 4. I want you to think about your identity. Think about all of the ways that you express to the world who you are. Artist, worker, hard worker, intelligent, not intelligent, family man, single, cottonwood, urban, all kinds of different things. What are the things that you identify as you? And those might be things that you have done or things that you do. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's your vocation, maybe it's your achievements in life. Maybe it's how you look, ethnicity, clothing, style, preferences, tastes of music or clothing or art. Or maybe it's even how other people think of you. I've heard that I'm like this. Other people describe me as this. I've been told that I am this. This person called me that name, so this is how I identify myself. Think about all of the different ways that you communicate or understand your identity, who you are. What would it take to keep that identity going? If you consider it something valuable and worth having, what would it require to keep that identity going forward? What would it take to destroy that? How easily could that be destroyed? And finally, how would a life with Jesus affect the way that you see yourself, the way that you think of who you are? How could Jesus change that identity? I promise you, when Jesus takes over the identity of a human being and we are identified not by ourselves, but by Him instead, I promise you, you will be able to finally discover an unconditional rest and honor that you have been searching for. It may not come right away. It requires absolute surrender to the craftsman. But I tell you what, when you find yourself partnering with the builder in his houses, partnering with the watchman over his cities, that you will find that his protection, his building, his gifts to you are a beautiful, peace-filled joy that you have never experienced in your life. Church, I want to encourage you today, continue to pursue him at all costs with everything that you've got. Be a counter-cultural, creative, humble, simple disciple of Jesus and his ways today. Thank you guys for tuning in, for hanging out with us, continuing to just seek after God with everything that you are and everything that you have. And in church, we are, again, in a strange and unusual time, but I still believe that there is the gospel is not bound by strange and unusual times. It is not restricted by crazy and chaotic events, but it cuts through all of it straight to the heart of mankind and opens wide a relationship with the Creator that restores our purpose, that restores our peace, that gives us and grants us a rest and a contentedness that the world has never known before. I thank you again, church, and I pray that just today is an amazing blessing for you.